Matt Holzapfel, Director of Public Works. This is probably not as fun as our Parks and Rec, but it is vitally important, the Public Works Department and the infrastructure we maintain to the economic vitality of this city. I'd like to reacquaint you with the Public Works Department. We have 9 divisions in the Public Works Department. The 3 biggest ones, of course, are the 3 divisions that handle the field services that actually deliver services to the customers, the citizens of the city of Mesquite. Our street department, our division, has 50 employees in it, and it's called the street division, but it also handles all the drainage facilities within the city of Mesquite as well, which are extensive. The major creeks, the underground storm sewer systems, the bridges, inlets, and the storm water collection system. So they're a vital part of our flood control and drainage system and maintaining those facilities in the city of Mesquite. Utilities division is a large operation, water and sewer system they maintain. We have a number of elevated tanks, 3 pump stations, getting ready to build that 4th pump station in Kaufman County next year. And they also handle our dispatch office that was mentioned several times already today. It's a 24/7 operation. We call it utilities or public works dispatch. But typically last year they handled nearly 32,000 calls during the course of a year. And they get everything, all the public works type of requests for service and reporting issues out there for utilities, all the public works functions, but generally just after hours especially handle all the complaints coming in, non-emergency calls coming into the city, including animal control, dogs barking, things of that nature. Solid Waste has 64 employees, and obviously they handle our residential collection, which includes our twice-a-week residential normal trash collection, once-a-week recycle collection, once-a-week yard waste collection, and then yard waste and, large item and bulk collection as well. They handle our transfer station at the City Service Center that takes the waste from the residential collection, packs it in big semis, takes it to the landfill. We also have a composting facility and convenience center off Lawson Road near Punchroy Day Camp that handles all the yard waste, process that, and turns it into good compost and mulch that can be sold to vendors and given to the citizens of Mesquite as well. Solid Waste also handles a vital role during emergency response. We've obviously had 2 events this year that were big events. Tornado early in March, early in the year, that came through southern Mesquite, tore up a lot of homes, businesses, took down a lot of trees. Our Solid Waste Division was a primary responder, first responder to that event, helped clean that event up and restore services to those employees. Then we had the large event, windstorm in the city of Mesquite last month that caused quite a bit of damage throughout the city of Mesquite. And again, Solid Waste spent 3 to 4 weeks cleaning up the debris from that throughout the city of Mesquite. If you go to some of our surrounding cities, drive into the city of Dallas north, that abuts the city of Mesquite, shows the difference between our response that we give to our citizens versus some of the other cities. Just drive into those neighborhoods that abut us and look at, there's still, the curb is lined with tons of brush and debris. So it shows what sort of service the Solid Waste Division delivers to the citizens of Mesquite. It's outstanding. Equipment Services, they're the group that maintains all the vehicles and equipment in the city of Mesquite, a small group. Traffic Engineering handles, we have 3 engineers, but the rest are staff that deal with the signals, the markings, the signs, and the street lighting throughout the city of Mesquite. Small technical groups, Geographic Information Systems, 7 people there that handle all the mapping functions. And that group has become vital to a lot of operations in the city of Mesquite. Sounds like they make maps. But virtually every software system that we currently use in the city of Mesquite links to that geographic information system. Our dispatch system for public safety, that's critical. If the GIS system goes down, that system ceases to function. Our EnerGov system for code enforcement and permitting ties directly into that system. So it's a very critical system. Engineering division is a small group that handles capital planning for our major infrastructure and does project management, project delivery. They also have a huge function in reviewing plans for private development as well. A small group for infrastructure management that does all the asset management, and also that group does a lot of in-house design supporting the Real Texas Road program as well. And of course, a small administration group for those 263 employees. I've got, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go read through all these accomplishments. I've got a number of slides, but you do have that slide set in front of you, so I'll leave it up. I'm just going to touch the highlights on a lot of these programs and projects that we've accomplished over the last year. Keep in mind, as I go through, a lot of these are construction projects, but keep in mind we have had record rainfall the last 12 months. In 2018, the month of September and October literally were the respective months that had the most historic rainfall for those respective months ever recorded in North Texas. And in just the first 6 months of this year, 2019, a lot of our rain gauges at the reservoirs that supply this city are recording almost 60 inches of rain in the first 6 months. What's normal for this part of Mesquite, an average rainfall for this part of Texas, is 34 inches over the course of an entire year. So that gives you some sort of idea of what we've been struggling with as far as rainfall totals, trying to get these projects built and in the ground and on schedule and on time. Some of the important ones, obviously the Real Texas Road program is moving on. The third-year streets are nearing completion. There's been a lot of work around 1515. We've done a lot of pavement work out there, and we've started our milling process around that city facility, all those streets that go all the way out to Lee Street. Also, we've started our utility work, and we just had a pre-construction meeting for the paving operations in the Valley View area in southwest Mesquite. So we're starting to hit that area very hard as well. Motley Drive's complete. We finished the Military Parkway Trail on the west side of the city. Sign Road, we just opened it up this week, all the way from Clay Mathis to Lawson Road. So we've got a brand new facility out there supporting the Ashley project as well as the airport in Mesquite. If you have time to drive down that roadway, it looks, you know, I love concrete, but it's a beautiful road. Thompson Square project, we hope to have all lanes of that open, all pavement lanes, travel lanes open to travel at the end of this month. We are still working with the franchise utility companies to get some of those relocations accomplished out there. Gus Thomason Road, the other section from US 80 to Town East. We have bid that. It's been under construction. They will be paving out there before the end of the month as well. So that one has had a lot of activity and is on schedule, and it looks like the contractor's going to meet a lot of their milestones. Town East Boulevard Phase 1 is nearing completion. All lanes have been open for a number of months now, and they're finishing up the landscaping and minor pavement works. A couple of driveways need to be tied in. Phase 2, Council just awarded that contract. We hope to kick that off next month. We do have a groundbreaking ceremony at the beginning or at the end of this month to start that project off. And of course, our Front Street project, we hope to start construction on that next month as well. Project Stallion is a big flood control and utility project supporting MISD and some private development along Town East Boulevard. That had a lot of trouble because it is a flood control project, so they've been working in the bottom of the creek as we're getting all this rain. But believe it or not, that project has been meeting milestones and is actually on schedule. We delivered the fields to MISD remove them out of the floodplain and deliver those over to MISD to rebuild those fields on time. So that project's on time, on schedule, and that was kind of a rush project. Had very little development time to get that one moving. Other accomplishments, the LBJ East project has been awarded by TxDOT, and we've been coordinating for a number of years on that project with TxDOT staff. We've had a lot of involvement with TxDOT staff the last 4 to 6 months, developing mitigation plans for traffic control. They're building into that project $1.5 million worth of signal modifications to help us with congestion during the course of that project. So we're doing what we can, working with TxDOT and their contractor to minimize impact to the citizens of Mesquite, resulting from that project when it kicks off early next year. The US 80 project, as Council's well aware, you've had briefings on that project the last few months. We also are we've had the frontage road project is complete. We're coordinating with Kaufman County and TxDOT on the I-20 frontage roads and also the farm to market roads in Kaufman County, and then also project development on State Highway 352 and Interstate 30 in Mesquite. We're also supporting that vigorous private development through the engineering division and our traffic division, inspecting, reviewing plans, and inspecting this work as it goes into the ground. You see how that private development's kind of going off the charts. And it continues to go. I just got a phone call yesterday from the engineer on Ridge Ranch, and they've been given an authorization to start on the design of the Phase 3 project. So they're having good luck out there, and they see that continuing. So they're leaning forward and are starting design on that next phase of Ridge Ranch. Other accomplishments, these are the less glamorous utility lines. Nobody really cares what's underground until it doesn't work. But we do a lot of projects to either build new infrastructure or maintain and rehabilitate, expand existing infrastructure. So there's a number of sanitary sewer projects there. Of course, we do a lot of water and sewer replacement ahead of the Real Texas Road project and supporting that project, and we do that so that we don't put a new roadway, a rehabbed roadway with older utilities underground that eventually have to be tore up and dug up, and we end up destroying the new road, repairing old lines. So we do those in conjunction or ahead of time in support of that Real Texas Road project. We are updating our sanitary sewer master plan. Master planning is a big function of our engineering division and our infrastructure management division. Last time that was updated was 2011. Really didn't address a lot of the development work out in Kaufman County, so we're adding elements in there to update the land use as well as our assumptions of what areas we're going to serve in Kaufman County. Our utility division, one of the things that many of you may not know is they assisted the police department in the last few months with the reconstruction of the police firing range to improve safety and its functionality. It was a large project. It was an unbudgeted project, and so we used in-house crews to lower the cost of that project to make it happen quickly, and I think we ended up with a very nice facility out there. Our in-house utility reconstruction crew replaced over half a mile of water main on 4 residential streets. As mentioned, our utility dispatch office handled almost 32,000 calls, and we cleaned and inspected over 23 miles of sanitary sewer. Some more. These are kind of non-project related, but things that are going on behind the scenes that improve the efficiency of our operation. One thing is our faster fleet management software that went live in 2019. This is really the first functional fleet management software the city's ever had. It's going to enable us to look at the efficiency of our mechanics, track costs much more effectively on all our equipment and vehicles in the city of Mesquite. Another thing, we took over certification for, yes, sir?
And I apologize, Matt.
No problem.
Could you go back to the previous page? I hate to interrupt you, but
Sure.
Something I was thinking about when on the sanitary sewer master plan update underway, and that leads to a question I was just going to ask at some point, which is, do you feel like that we're kind of where we need to be in terms of continuing to replace old infrastructure, getting newer infrastructure, given the health hazards, et cetera? Do you feel like we're kind of in a good place on that? I know there's a lot to do, so I was just curious.
It's a lot to do, and a couple of years back, I think most of you remember that we did asset management plans for both our water and our sanitary sewer. And they gave us numbers that were kind of mind-boggling of what it's going to take to keep rehab our infrastructure and make sure it doesn't get to the point that we've lost control. And that was rolled into our rate structure that the council approved for the water and sewer. And that they're ramping up our bond sales, our ability to sell bonds to around $20 million a year to support the rehab. Now, we are out of that taking a lot of money for new infrastructure, not rehabbing of existing, such as the Kaufman County pump station, the water line to get over there. But that's a huge increase compared to what we had in the past. So that's getting us a long way to where we need to be to keep this infrastructure maintained as you know, keep its life and its condition upgraded so it's serving the citizens of Mesquite, and we don't have a sudden failure. So I feel real good with those new numbers and those new capital plans that are rolled into the rate structure, that it's going to give us a good future in our water and sewer system.
And you just alluded to it, that you feel good, so there's no section that you are real nervous about that could be a problem for us. EPA is good with us and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we do occasionally have what they call SSOs, or sanitary sewer overflows. We report those diligently. That's a high priority issue for us, and we are constantly looking at those. That second line item there on the listing here, the large diameter reinforced concrete pipe trunk mains, we had been spending $1 million a year on that project. The new capital plan allows us to spend $2 million a year. I'd like to spend more, because those are the very large pipes that what we call our interceptors or trunk mains, and they're all made out of concrete pipe, and the sewer gases in that pipe actually cause that material to degrade and start thinning out. It actually kind of corrodes that pipe. And so we are lining those mains as we have funds. Part of what we're also doing is going to be TV cameraing all those lines to get a condition of those lines, so we can prioritize the hot spots that need to be addressed quickly. But that is one area that kind of keeps me up at night.
Okay.
So.
Well, I appreciate the frankness and the clarity as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Some of the other, again, not in project, but we did get certification for CDL license issuance. We are able now, with two of our employees that went through an extensive training and testing certification process, we're able to give the test, the driving test and the equipment check test to finish off that CDL license and issue those licenses to city employees. We were the first city in Texas to acquire that, and I think that somehow got out. I think TML picked that up and broadcast it out to a number of cities. Our phone is literally ringing off the hook right now with other cities wondering how to get that program started in their city, because they had all the cities are having the same problem that the city of Mesquite had. But that's greatly increased our efficiency in getting drivers certified to operate the heavy equipment here in the city of Mesquite. We also, another efficiency is vehicle registration delegation. We are one of the first cities to be able to register vehicles in-house at our service center as we're doing the inspections, and so that again has increased efficiency. We've implemented our CityWorks asset management and work order software in May of this year, so it's only been live since May 20th. It's looking like it's a great software package. Our Public Works employees and our Parks Department employees are using this software, and they've embraced it, and it's providing a lot of very good data for us. The city manager mentioned our citizen portal software. That's kind of a link with the work order software. It's called City Source. It's going to provide a portal to the citizens for reporting problems with infrastructure and other needs in the community directly, and it will automatically issue service requests and work orders for those requests. We adopted the engineering design manual. We mentioned the solid waste cleanups due to our some of our wind and tornado issues. We did complete a solid waste contract amendment, and we started our CART program, pilot program, in 2 areas in the city of Mesquite. And we've got about a month and a half worth of data there. Yes, sir.
Matt, on that CDL testing,
Yes, sir.
are we keeping those people busy with just our own people, or is that something we could do a revenue, other cities could send people to our city and charge them a certain amount to, to get through that class?
It's actually restricted by the Department of Public Safety. We can only test our own employees.
Okay.
That's just the way it's designed. And it is 2 of our supervisors. There's 1 supervisor in solid waste and 1 in our utility division. So it takes time away from their other duties to conduct that testing. But we feel the benefits far outweigh the negatives on that. But each city or governmental entity has to set up their own program. It's just the way the Department of Public Safety designed it, unfortunately.
Okay, just looking for revenue.
Yes, absolutely, sir. What's ahead coming up for next fiscal year? Of course, the Real Texas Road Program. We'll finish our 3rd-year streets, and we're going to plan for years 4 to 6. We plan to bring that package of additional streets for years 4 through 6 to council in August of this year, next month, for you to review, comment on, and then we'll start putting those projects out for bid and construction. Of course, the Town East Boulevard Phase 2 project will be starting underway. Town East Boulevard Trail, there's another segment of the Phase 1 project. We did not build the sidewalk on that section because we actually have a grant project through TxDOT to build that trail. So we are bidding that project right now and should go to construction shortly on that segment there. And then we'll have Gus Thomason will be finished. Front Street will be underway. Project Stallion should complete. Military Parkway Trail Phase 2. This is a joint county-city project to go from 635 to Carmack. It complements the downtown, the Front Street project, because it brings a trail right into our downtown area. And then, of course, a bunch of orphan sidewalk projects that we're doing, supported by CDBG block grant funds. We will also start construction of Kaufman County large diameter transmission water main. That's a major project. The construction alone is slated to be around $20 to $21 million. Plus there's permitting and design and project management fees associated with that project as well. That will bring water to those areas in Kaufman County so that we can provide water to these large developments that are slated to start popping up along the I-20 corridor out there. We also plan to update our master water plan. That, again, was last updated in 2011. But we made some assumptions in Kaufman County that we would not be the retail water provider out there. And those assumptions have changed dramatically. And so that plan is in dire need of updating to reflect the new land use that we're looking at out there, and also differences on how we're going to serve those customers out there. You're well aware of Palos Verdes Lake, and we have a number of sanitary utility projects, and then also upgrades to our traffic signal system will continue throughout the city. Goals. We're here. The Public Works Department is here to meet the needs of the citizens and as far as infrastructure is concerned, and to provide support to the council's primary goals. And listing these goals here is number 1, improve transportation and mobility to enhance the traffic management system, with emphasis on improved traffic flow, to expand and repair the thoroughfare and trail network system in the city, and also to expand and enhance transit options within the city of Mesquite. Also, just the condition of the infrastructure, your streets, your alleys, your sidewalks in a neighborhood directly affect neighborhood appearance and condition, which is a big city council goal and citizen goal, and a vibrant economy as well, supporting a vibrant economy with emphasis on the downtown revitalization area. As part of this, you know, the citizens of the city of Mesquite in their survey, in both last year and in 2017, rated the maintenance of city streets and sidewalks as a #1 priority for the city as well. Challenges and opportunities. I'm going to focus quite a bit on the streets and alley maintenance, since that is a #1 concern of our citizens. But that's really where we have a lot of ground to make up is in our road repair and alley maintenance out there. And so I'm going to list here and kind of go through some of the challenges and opportunities that we see in the Public Works Department, and particularly the Streets Department. We really need to increase staffing levels and funding for road repair, materials, and equipment to improve our street and alley conditions throughout the city of Mesquite. City Council has gone a long way towards that with the Real Texas Road program and a lot of the major thoroughfare construction projects that we were listing there. But there's more to be done, and we are stretched to provide timely maintenance on a lot of these citizen requests. We need to concentrate on timely maintenance of streets and alleys early in their life cycle to make best use of resources. And I'm going to touch on that more fully in a slide or two here. So if you just hold that thought, and I'll explain that a little bit more fully in a few minutes. We are working on the implementation of our new design and construction manual. Matter of fact, in this room yesterday, we brought in all our crew chiefs, our inspectors, both in the street division and the engineering division. We brought in building inspection staff as well. And we went through a lot of the portions of our new design manual, specifically targeted on concrete streets, alleys, sidewalks, and things, drive approaches. And the changes in the new design manual to upgrade our infrastructure to make sure that it lasts longer and performs better during the course of its life and gives better value to the citizens of Mesquite. We need to leverage our street and maintenance repair and reconstruction funds through grants and partnerships with other agencies. I think we've been very good with that. We gain a lot of grants either through TxDOT or through Dallas County Public Works. A lot of our projects have some participation from some other governmental agency in some form or fashion, but we need to do more there. And part of that is we have to have our share. We've partnered with Dallas County for many years on a lot of our major thoroughfare projects, but we've actually lost some grant funding because we don't have our fair share of the 50% that we have to come up for those projects that have been approved in the past. So that is a big reason why our city managers asked for a 10-year CIP plan, so we can plan those dollars, and when we have to have our share of the funding, we have it available so we can move forward with those projects. Another thing is just to identify additional sources of revenue to fund street, alley maintenance and repair and reconstruction. Requiring property owners to maintain the infrastructure they are responsible for related to drainage, drive approaches, sidewalks, and so forth, with various programs in the city. Also, I'm going to focus a little bit here on street and alley maintenance, primarily the alley. I'll explain in a little bit more detail, but we need to change our alley maintenance strategy to focus repairs on rear entry alleys. If you think about it, the front, people who, the subdivisions were built with front entry, they have driveways that front to the street, their garages face the street. The alleys are really only used for trash pickup. So it's kind of a minor thing. We can easily move trash pickup to the front of, and take it off the alley into the street if those alleys start degrading. And so we're considering we are in the process of developing a policy that will present to council in October on how do we allocate our money and our funds and our resources, and which alleys do we actually maintain, and what do we do with an alley once it gets to the point, if it's a front entry alley, what do we do with it if it gets to the point where it's hard to drive down and needs major reconstruction. We'd also we're considering the idea of using annual bond funds for alley repair that we traditionally have gone out and asked an engineering firm, a consultant, to prepare plans for a project, and then we bid that project to the private sector or for contractors to build. We've looked at the dollar amounts there that we're spending and the unit costs we're getting, and we believe if we dedicated those funds to in-house design to fund a alley crew, that we could double the amount of alley we could get done with those funds. We also think it'd be a more flexible approach, because sometimes we don't want to reconstruct an entire alley. We just want to do pieces of it. And when we do a big project that we hand off to an engineering firm and have a private contractor bid on something like that, they often don't give us very good unit prices and pricing on that type of work, because it's spot work all over the place, and it's not very effective for them to execute, whereas the city is set up to execute work like that with our in-house crews very well. And then we're researching and adding more options for street and alley rehabilitation, repair, and replacement, including asphalt alleys and asphalt overlays for streets as well. This is kind of a busy chart.
I was going to say,
Yes, sir.
I think I may have a good idea for your alley repair. Since the garbage trucks do some of the damage, maybe you could fix a device on the garbage truck to where it could pour concrete, so as it's going through.
There you go.
You know, you can have one guy doing that at the same time. Just an idea, you know.
Need a patent, that one. This is kind of a busy chart, but it talks about pavement maintenance life cycle costs. And if you kind of look, this is this dark black line here. This is the pavement condition index here. Goes from 0 to 100. 100 being a brand new street. 0, it's turned into gravel again, and it's over kind of a 70-year life cycle of our typical pavements in the city of Mesquite. And with time, just like anything, pavement wears out and needs rehab. But there's a number of basically maintenance strategies you can take on rehabbing and maintaining any sort of infrastructure. One way, which we should be using, but quite frankly we don't often do, is periodic maintenance on the alley of small dollars, spot repair during the life cycle of an alley or a street. And it's very economical to do periodic work on it, and it maintains its condition at a very high level. This is very similar. If you think about it, how do you take care of your car? We go and we know that engines need oil changes. So we go, we get a $50 oil change for our car to make sure that that engine has good, clean oil in it, and it runs well over the course of its life. But you could ignore those oil changes, and instead of spending $50 once or twice a year, you could just never put oil in the thing and let the oil in that crankcase turn into sludge. And you know, around 80,000 miles, you're putting a brand new engine in the car, right? So at $4,000 or $5,000. This is kind of the strategy. Which one should you be doing? Which one is the most economical way to deal with a car, or in this case, a street or alley? Doing small incremental repairs to a street or alley over the course of its life is by far the most economical way of dealing with a street or alley maintenance program. But the problem is there's no complaints when streets are in good shape. So we generally don't put any of our resources towards those type of things. We wait till they get a condition 3 or 4 where they're really starting to feel bad when you drive down them, and then we start pouring money in it. But by that time, the repair options become much more expensive. So we really need to focus and try and shift our strategy to, instead of wait until they get down to this area where we're doing a Real Texas Road program to take care of the number 4 or grade 4 streets and alleys, we need to spend some of our money up in this end of the life cycle of these streets and alleys. I'm about ready to get into budget offers, but before I go there, I'd kind of like to just talk about, because most of them are focused on transportation and our streets division, just the scale of the problem that we have right now. We have almost 1,200 lane miles of streets in the city of Mesquite and 214 lane miles of paved alley. That's a total of 1,400 lane miles of streets and alleys within the city of Mesquite. And that's enough pavement to stretch from Mesquite to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, if you think about it. That is a lot of street and alley. We don't think about how much it is when you start laying this stuff end on end, but it's a vast amount of infrastructure to maintain. And to do that, we have 50 staff people in the street division. But if you take out the people that are management and secretarial and our 5 people that handle the Real Texas Road program and our street sweeping program, that leaves us with roughly 39 people, crew members. That's when everybody's here. There's no vacancies in the street division. There's no one sick or on vacation or in training to handle all the streets in the city of Mesquite. That's roughly 1 crew member per 36 lane miles of street and alley. So that kind of tells you the staffing issue we have there. And remember, this is just the streets and alleys. They're also handling all the drainage work in the city of Mesquite as well. And you can imagine with the rain that we've had, right now I have generally most days 2 to 3 crews. Typical crew is 3 men handling drainage issues. So that detracts from that 39, already small 39 crew members. My first budget offer for the street division is outfitting a drainage maintenance, repair, and inspection crew for the street division. And this would have an ongoing salary and benefit cost of roughly $142,000. There'd be some seed money we would need at first to give them heavy equipment and some vehicles, and for the crew leader, a laptop for our asset management system to access that. It's roughly a $500,000 initial cost for that crew, but then that would drop in following years because this initial amount includes that heavy equipment, which will last a while. Right now, the city, as I mentioned, has no dedicated drainage crew. We are pulling street crews off of other duties to handle all our drainage maintenance work. And we're funding that repair of our drainage system with those street crews out of the general fund. The drainage maintenance and repair should be really funded out of the drainage utility district because that's what it's dedicated for. And by adding this crew, it essentially would free up the crew or crews that are now being pulled out of the street department work or street work. So it kind of, in a way, gives me another crew to handle street and alley maintenance duties. So that's my #1 request for the Public Works Department. And Debbie did mention during her budget presentation, she has shown in the Drainage Utility District the fee increases it would take to support a crew of this nature. Any questions? Second budget offer we'd like the council to consider is in our traffic engineering division for a traffic engineering technician. And this is primarily a technician that, amongst other duties, their primary duty would be manning our traffic management center that we have here at 1515. This is kind of most of you have seen our traffic management center. We're able to sit at the computers there. We're able to monitor all the traffic signals, all 120 traffic signals in the city of Mesquite. Many of those are equipped with video detection, so we can actually see what's going on at the intersection in real time. This technician would sit at this traffic management center during peak traffic rush hours and would be able to dynamically alter the signal timing sequences at those locations as they see situations develop. If we start seeing a long queuing of traffic behind certain signals, we can change the timing, or we can give more priority to certain legs that seem to need it. A lot of times also there's accidents, and those accidents cause changes in the traffic patterns, and we really don't know until after it's too late that we need to do something about it. But this would allow us to monitor those periods dynamically. Also, the LBJ East project construction starts in early 2020 next year. We think that's going to cause considerable changes in traffic pattern and potential congestion in North Mesquite. This would help us address those issues. Also, we're a little bit concerned because 2 of our 3 traffic engineers are likely to retire next year. And so this would also help us get another technician in there early so that some of that information and institutional knowledge can be given from the existing engineers to this new technician before those engineers depart. Signal systems these days are very complex. They're interconnected. They're rapidly changing in technology, so we feel this would be a great addition to the traffic engineering division in order to help us handle the congestion that we're currently experiencing and will continue to see in the future. Questions? No. Our third budget offer related to transportation is a full-time transportation planner. And this would be a person that would be dedicated to integrating transit into the overall transportation goals of the city. Transit, again, is one of those complicated, rapidly evolving types of transportation here in the city of Mesquite and within our nation. There's a lot of entities you have to coordinate with. Obviously, the Regional Transportation Council, Star Transit, DART, and the Federal Transit Administration. And it takes a lot of effort just to stay current with the rapidly evolving modes of transit, including especially modes of transit on demand and the last mile transit solutions that we see evolving in our nation. This position would also research and apply for grants related to transit and transportation, and to ensure that the annual reports for the grants we currently have are submitted in a timely manner in full compliance with the regulatory requirements of the Federal Transit Administration. And this position would continuously update the mobility plan that incorporates our current thoroughfare plan, trails master plan, and transit into a unified plan. So it's an area that kind of falls on a lot of people's laps, different laps throughout the city, and it is part of their duties. But transit is going to be an increasingly important part of our transportation mode here in the city, and it is rapidly evolving. We feel a position is warranted to support those programs. Shifting gears a little bit to solid waste, away from transit and solid waste. This is one of our higher or most important needs in public works, is a solid waste master plan. And this would be $250,000 to hire a consultant to put together a master plan for our solid waste division. The city of Mesquite has never had a solid waste master plan, so this would be new for us. And solid waste collection is a very complex operation. I mentioned how many modes of collection we have in the city of Mesquite, and there's a lot of options. We're testing right now that CART program, which is one collection option. And there's many cities that do many different things, and we need some some eyes on our solid waste operation to look at it as a whole, to bring in the experiences of other cities and other ways of doing things, to look at how we handle our solid waste operations, to make sure we're operating in the most efficient manner possible, and also to develop a plan for long term as we start collecting trash in our annexed areas in Kaufman County and as the city grows. Is what we're doing now going to be viable and the most efficient way of handling things into the future? Also, a big part of this master plan would be examine opportunities and economics of our commercial solid waste collection. Right now, that's a franchise out to a private collection service, Republic, as you're well aware. But there is opportunity there to improve service to our businesses and as a potential source of revenue to the city when that commercial solid waste contract with Republic expires in January 2022. It takes roughly, if the city of Mesquite decided that we wanted to bring some of those elements of commercial collection back in-house and start doing it ourselves, it takes at least a year to ramp up those operations in order to acquire the necessary equipment, dumpsters, and so forth, and to transition operations. So it's something we really need a good plan or at least examine those opportunities for in the next fiscal year. So if we decide to do something with that prior to January 31st, that we're prepared to take on those operations. Another thing we need to examine with that master plan is the recycling market. It's changed dramatically in the last 2 years. Recycling used to be a money-making operation for the city of Mesquite because the materials we collected had a commodity value. Since China has put an embargo of recycled materials coming from the United States, it's basically shut that door, and they were buying about 1/3 of the recycled materials worldwide. And so the pricing for a lot of recycled materials the bottom has fallen out of it, and some of that stuff is literally sitting at the municipal recycling centers until they have a volume that they don't know what to do with, and some of the materials are actually being landfilled because there is literally no market for it. So we have to examine what we're doing with recycled, what's viable to recycle, what's not, and how do we provide that service to the citizens of Mesquite. And lastly, is our utility division. We continue to grow in population and meter count within the city of Mesquite. And we feel there's a need for one additional water meter reader in the city of Mesquite. And these are some of the stats related to our utility division meter readers. We read 41,000 water meters every month. And contrary to some things you read on social media, we do read every meter every month. And these numbers of 41,000 do not include requested rereads. And we feel because of population growth and new subdivision growth that we have out there that it's about time to get an additional water meter reader so we can cut back on overtime that we're currently having to pay some of our meter readers to pick up the additional routes that are being needed out there. Questions? Everybody's quiet.
All right. Questions, Mr. Burrows, Mayor Pro Tem Burrows?
Matt, with the water meters, I know, is there a time that's going to come to where they're going to be electronic to where we won't have to actually send a meter person out there to read those? Or how is that looking in the future?
We're looking at that. I have a lot of stats that I can go in depth on that. Matter of fact, we want to come to council in the next 2 to 3 months, kind of with a policy on the radio read meters. The new handhelds we purchased are able to, they're radio read as well. So they will work with any sort of radio read system that we have. The problem we're running into is radio read meters are very, very expensive meters. It cost us to read by hand a meter roughly $5 per year. It's right at $4.80 per meter per year. And so If you look at what it costs for one of those radio read meters, though, versus the cost of reading it by hand, for a residential meter, it's a 31-year period payback. So and those meters wear out after 12 to 15 years. So you really never, it's actually cheaper for us and for the ratepayers if we actually continue to read by hand at least the residential meters. Now, when you get into the larger meters, they're much more expensive, and the delta between a conventional meter and a radio read meter is much smaller. So we're looking at probably converting a large number of our commercial meters and larger meters 1 inch and above, to radio read, because it makes a lot of sense there. Also, those commercial meters are generally, it takes a lot longer. You know, if I'm going down a street of residential homes, I'm hitting meter after meter after meter, and it goes very, very quick. But if I'm in a commercial area, a shopping center, there's a lot of time it takes to get from meter to meter, so the cost per meter really starts climbing to read those by hand as well. So just glancing at it and the numbers we've crunched already on that type of thing, it makes a lot of sense to convert all our larger and commercial meters to radio read, but probably not as much on the radio read for the residential meters.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any other questions for Matt this afternoon? Mr. Archer?
Matt, great presentation, and I'll share what I share with Mr. Armstrong. I've seen a lot of progress in your department with your leadership, and I appreciate what you're doing and your staff as well. And I also want to brag on your constituent service. You and Kimberly and a number of folks on a wide variety of everything from solid waste to street alley issues. I've had a number of residents who had kind of out of the ordinary issues that you guys just took care of it quickly with great service. So I applaud you for that. Thank you very much. We talked briefly earlier, or Mr. Kahili had threw a number out for Lawson Road. I know that we had discussed here a while back after the unfortunate situation some preliminary things to do to at least make that drop-off area a little bit safer. We talked about, obviously, traffic enforcement. Where are we at right now with just some preliminary things short of, a $20 or $30 million expenditure to at least make that stretch a little bit safer over there?
There is a study being done. It's actually, David might speak to us, our city attorney, but it's related. But we are looking at the safety of that street, and we have executed an engineering contract to do so. Now, we haven't seen the results of that study as yet. We have taken the proactive stance of lowering the speed limit. The council approved that lowering of the speed limit a few meetings ago on Lawson. But we're awaiting the results of that study before we take action.
And we're doing some traffic enforcement down there too?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to talk about the rural Texas roads for just a moment. How are we doing with communication with the neighborhoods during the pre-prep work period, letting folks know what's going to happen? I know in the past we talked about doing some neighborhood meetings, but then we haven't actually done much of that to my knowledge. But how are we letting folks know what's coming and help them avoid being frustrated, or at least so they know in advance what's going to be happening in the neighborhood?
We have 4 inspectors dedicated to that program, as well as other outside contracts that the street division handles, like the 50/50 program. But we do put out flyers when we start in a neighborhood. We give out contact information for the inspector and program manager in the street division that's over that program. We also have a website that you can go to, the Road Texas Road website, and if you click on your street, it'll tell you exactly which inspector is assigned to that, where in the phase of the project it is. So it's a very interactive, and that's actually updated weekly by our inspectors, so that as a project progresses and moves from phase to phase of the Real Texas program, going from the pavement repair portion to the milling portion to the overlay portion, that it's being updated constantly. So, and those links are given to the residents so that they If they're computer savvy, they can check those things online.
How are we giving them that information? Are we
They are.
lit dropping, or are we knocking
We
doors?
were actually knocking on doors and handing out flyers with that information when we start those projects out there. And those inspectors are out on those streets when construction is active every single day.
Continuing with the Rural Texas roads, given that we know we've had some issues with the process not being what we wanted early on, and I know we've done some things to adjust on that, do you have any type of a rough idea or ballpark figure of what we've had to expend in addition, going back and having to address failures and things like that? How much has that kind of eaten into our Rural Texas Road 125 million amount?
The addressing the failures hasn't been a real major impact. We've had to do some of it. We're out there on Ridgeview doing some of it right now,
Good.
marking things up. But we have looked at that area, and there are some areas on Ridgeview especially that need to be addressed. So we are walking those, looking at those. What it's really done, that engineering report, if you'll recall, it made a lot of recommendations. Number one, to do a whole lot more full depth pavement repair to make sure that the subgrade was good underneath the pavement. So if there was any suspicion that the subgrade underneath a section of pavement was bad, go ahead and remove the pavement and do a full depth replacement in those locations. It also called for doing full depth in all intersections and to not use the process at all if a road was too badly gone.
Well,
And
that complements my question. I'm glad that you said that. So let me add to my question by saying where we have had to go back and do full depth, or where we may have to do some full depth where we hadn't anticipated, did we, and I know you probably can't give me a close to exact number, but what are your concerns about that eating into what would have been a number of more streets that we could have done with this process? Does that make sense?
Yeah, the changes required by that engineering study and implementing those changes has significantly raised the cost of that optimized concrete method. And so it is becoming less economical than it was, than we thought it was going to be. That plus the general rise in construction costs across the board that us and every other city in Texas is experiencing is causing us to reevaluate some of our methods and what we can and can't do. Looking at that, we think we can do a lot more with pavement preservation and milling and asphalt overlays, where we go in, mill off the asphalt, look at the underlying concrete pavement, and doing the full depth repair where we have failures, and then doing an asphalt overlay in those areas. We think we can stretch our dollars. We think we can still get that 100 miles. It may not be the same methods that we initially thought we were going to use, but it will provide a very durable, high quality, long lasting pavement surface to the citizens.
And that was the ultimate goal of my question is, will we be able to still, in one way or another, reach that 100-mile goal and or be able to get the neighborhoods that we felt we needed to get to versus them just being left out because we just couldn't get that far with the program?
It's a little early in the process because we're only 3 years into an 8-year program. And again, we don't know what construction costs will do the next 5 years. But we think by stretching our dollars, using these other ways of handling the situation, we think we can. We can get very, very close.
I would just urge staff, if y'all would, as we go forward, every 6 months, or at least a year, keep us apprised of where that program is, especially if we do start seeing more and more bitten off because of the full depth replacement, et cetera.
Yeah,
We need
Mr.
to
Archer.
communicate that with our constituents.
No, absolutely. Mr. Archer, Matt mentioned that we're going to come back to you with kind of a 3-year plan
Right.
instead of 1-year plans. And part of that included some of these alternative methods and strategies to still try to achieve as many of the streets as we can. And we'll try to provide a little bit more of an update on where we're at as well at the same time.
And do we feel like that we're making also, are we making progress with some of our new, our stricter rules and regulations with the contractors in terms of meeting deadlines and things like that? Are we, do we feel like we're a little bit better on the big projects, the big commercial projects of reining those guys in? And, or for example, days where, for example, GT, it's sunny and it's nice, but there's only just a small number of people. I get concerns voiced from constituents about that from time to time.
I think the best example is the Gus Thomason project between US 80 and Town East. They've made tremendous progress. I think they're just a little bit ahead of schedule despite
Exactly.
the weather, because of the incentives that we put into the contract. And I think that is a good method, and we're using that throughout all of our contracts moving forward. I think it's, while it's still, there's still congestion, there's still some headaches, we're going to reduce the time, especially in those real congested areas.
We've been pretty successful. If, you know, the Gus Thomason project is a prime example. Project Stallion had incentives, and that's on schedule as well. They're meeting their milestones, and we hope to have North Mesquite Drive open again to traffic shortly here. The Sign Road project, I mean, that was almost a 2-mile long project. We had to meet certain deadlines to get certain portions open for Ashley. We met those deadlines as well. So when it makes sense and when we have tight time constraints, when we have to get certain things done, we can offer those incentives and we can execute and make sure those projects gets finished on time. The vast majority of our projects are on time, even though we've had this monsoon,
Sure.
a 12-month period, and we have had a few bad ones. The Thompson Square Gus Thomason project being one, and Motley. You know, and those contractors are suffering because they will be paying liquidated damages.
Well, I'll just conclude by saying that irregardless of the challenges that we face with our street and alley, et cetera, infrastructure, like many of my colleagues, I've seen at 2 in the morning your guys out digging a huge hole where a water line has bursted. See them out there in 100-degree weather working very difficult conditions, working in rain, working in cold weather, and I'm grateful
Thank you,
for
sir.
what they do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Matt, I know you're going to do this later, but I'm going to ask anyway. You mentioned the Real Texas roads and the possibility of using asphalt overlays. Would you only do that where there's currently asphalt? You would not do that where there's currently concrete, would you?
There's a lot, we might use it, quite frankly, but a lot of the streets we're addressing are concrete streets that have had 1 or 2 or 3 asphalt overlays that are still there and deteriorating. So a lot of those we'd mill off, like many of the neighborhoods around behind this building, for instance, we'd mill off that old asphalt to expose the initial concrete street that was poured with the subdivision, evaluate that, get that repaired with spot repair, and then put a new riding surface on it with asphalt.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Matt? Yeah, Mr. Casper.
Matt, how does Public Works assess how a street is functioning, not in terms of the grade of the concrete, but moving traffic, specifically with like a newly designed street like Motley?
Traffic engineering, they have a level of service, so it's basically based on delay times, how much delay you experience at intersections primarily going down a street. And generally it's rated A, being a very good level of service, down to an E. And so traffic engineers have, when they do a traffic impact analysis, things of that nature, they look at what is the current level of service and what is the expected level of service. And that's how we look. We have to look at current traffic volumes, project traffic volumes into the future based on undeveloped lands and what we might consider increases due to additional development out there or redevelopment. And then we throw those volumes into a model and project those numbers. And that's how we come up with our lane counts. That's how we come up with intersection designs to provide the best level of service for the least amount of money and number of lanes.
Well, that's helpful. Now that we've had a period of time, how is Motley's new design performing?
It's actually performing very well. You know, it was open the full roadway was open before the school was out, so we were able to observe it during the school year, and it's operating quite well. We actually went back out there with our drones to look at the intersections, particularly the one at Larchmont that feeds into the school there, and it's operating as expected, sir.
And so the grades are kind of what the department was forecasting when the design was pitched?
Correct, sir.
Thank you.
So Matt, just to be clear, you have, as your budget offer, the drainage maintenance and repair, 554,000
Correct, sir.
total that can be funded by DUD.
That's correct, sir, the Drainage Utility District.
And then the remainder of the couple of pages there would be about $473,000.
Correct, sir.
Dollars.
I haven't added them all up
Well-
individually, but
And that's gonna be funded, I guess, I have here with a $1 increase in solid waste, is that right, or?
no.
No, each of the department directors have presented different budget offers, and we will, that's kind of the last part of our day today. So Matt's budget offers don't have a funding mechanism applied to those yet.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Further questions? No.